Um, Hello. So this is actually kind of like a reiteration of the previous video. So it's actually the same video. Just wanted to expand in this video more information that I wanted to share. Um, in the previous video, I have been explaining about the first call transformation, and there was a speculation made on the 24th and the 25th. And well, actually, I just wanted to kind of like update about how the 24th and the 25th of November of 2017 is actually equal, the same as the 25th and the 26th of November 2017. So they're actually the column over here, you can see that there's a 1 day off kind of delay, and that is how the Kislev 6 and the 7 here, which is the 24th and the 25th being pushed a day away, being on the 25th and 26th, still the same Kislev 6 and Kislev 7. The importance of Kislev 6 and the 7 is actually Pentecost itself. By God's clock mirroring, it actually equals the same as Sivan 6 and 7. And Sivan 6 and 7 is actually the Pentecostal date. And the importance of Pentecost is the infusion of the Holy Spirit, and is actually the pattern for the coming transformation of the Bali Bride. And again, I have explained about what happened in the past. It will occur again right now in this final generation. That in the past there were like well, in Matthew 27 there were like if I just go to like the Bible, I want to go to Matthew 27 and to see that is actually the pattern's gonna repeat itself in this generation. And what I mean is that there were like 3 hours of darkness before the death of Jesus, and the 3 hours of darkness, it was here in verse 45. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And so this is actually the three hours of darkness that actually went before the 3 days of burial. And according to God's clock, an hour is as a day, so 1 hour is as 1 day. If you see the clock visually, you can also make sense of that. For instance, this is actually this section from 6 to 7 o'clock. This is an hour, but it's actually 2018, 2019 is also a year at the same time. So while God's clock moving an hour forward, it's also moving a year forward at the same time. So God's clock works not as the way that man's timing works. So my point over here, I just wanted to say that the 3 hours of darkness in verse 45 is actually 3 days of costly event that was prophesied back in Matthew 16. Matthew 16, it was about the son of Jonah, about the red skies, cosmic warning. During those 3 days, that's actually going to occur as a warning for all the people on the earth, on the face of the earth, to hide in safety before the 6th is gonna come, because here it says that in Matthew 27 of the crucifixion of Jesus, well, he in Matthew, after his death on verse 50, in verse 51, it taught about the earth quaked. So that's actually the sixth seal, the calm. Many are looking forward to the rapture, which is the seventh seal, but we have to wait until the sixth seal to occur first before the seventh seal. So we're waiting for the worldwide quake, which will precede the 3 days of darkness, just as Jesus had his 3 days of burial in Matthew 27 before he was risen again and that he was transfigured. And so the bride follows the pattern of the transfiguration of Jesus. Just as Jesus, he was transformed around the time of the 3 days of darkness, and just as the bride, barley bride, will be transformed and will walk in the transformed bodies during the 3 days of cosmic warning, and also the 40 days of harvest, which mimics the 40 days of the 40 days of ministry of Jesus after his 3 days of burial. And so the veil of the temple is rent in twain. So again, that's actually the sixth seal, where the spiritual realm is going to be visible in the physical realm, and so that's what it is. And so, and there's just a lot of meaning behind the veil of the temple, and it's all the same when the sign Jonah, which is going to be the 3 days of darkness, and during that time there's going to be a worldwide reconciliation ahead, where Jesus will reveal himself to all the people on the earth, on the face of the earth, and God will have the attention during that time. And so during that time, many will be given live review, and they will know the heart condition, and that they would know, given a chance to make Jesus as the Lord and Savior, and to repent of the sins completely during that time. So the veil of the temple, it also, I do believe, also pertains to the spiritual veil, which during that time many souls during that time that the spiritual veil will be removed, and that they will be to see the truth and run to the truth and set free by the truth and be saved during that time. And so I do recall that in Matthew 24, in that what it is that it talked about how the gospel shall be reached unto the end of the earth, and then the end shall come. So I do believe that's actually applies to this event, because the gospel is gonna be shared worldwide, because Jesus, he will reveal himself during 3 days of darkness, just as back in the book of Exodus there was 3 days of darkness. So what happened in the past, it will happen right now as well. And so like it says about how the that the graves that were opened, and that it, like the saints went into the holy city. So I do believe that that's pertaining to the bride who's going to heaven for the training during 3 days of darkness, because they are not they're not of the darkness, but they're of the light, the bride of Christ. And so they'll be given a training. I do believe what it mentioned in verse 53 is that the state, like as the saints went to Holy City, it means that at the same time, at the sixth seal, while those who's going to be left behind, those of the sinners who are not saved, and those of the lukewarm, just like Jonah and just like Saul. But the bride, just as Jesus, like he like during that 3 days of burial, we just didn't know where he went. Like it was kind of like a mystery kind of thing, and it's like the same for the bride. They what I see is that in verse 53 is that the bride, they will not be of the darkness, that they would go for training before the harvest. And so there was descent from heaven to earth after the 3 days of darkness. And so that, I believe, just as how Jesus told the repentant thief who, it was like that today he shall be with him in paradise. And I'm not sure which verse it is, but you can see like the quote behind the crucifixion. There is a quote behind it. There were like two thieves and Jesus, the Son of God, who was in the midst of the three crosses. And ironically, like the 28th is coming very soon, and it's like as in 28th of November. So again, this only remains in speculation, not like they said it, but I'm just trying to say there's gonna be a possibility, because ironically this month of November, I can actually see it as the sabbatical code of 7777. As I explained before in time past, there were videos about the significance of sabbatical code, and so for the 7 is being resembled with November with 2-1, and 27 as 1 and a 7, which 1117 is actually for the 7, because 1 is a 7, according to God's clock. So with the quote of the crucifixion, the thieves, they were against a commandment. The 8th commandment, it says, "Thou shalt not steal," and that's exactly 8:28, 8:28, because the Son of God, it's a second in the Trinity. And so that's 8:28, in which God's clock, it goes by the golden rule of 3. And going by backwards is actually the 28th November is equal as the 28th of August. And so it actually like it makes up 8:28, ironically, if that's what it is. But I'm gonna like say as to why I'm convinced about the 23 and the 26, because not only is the Pentecostal date of being Savant 6 and 7 as Kislev 6 and 7 is also, according to Enos calendar, it's Kislev 11, which is 9/11. 9/11, that was actually, I believe it was a precursor. Like, it's kind of like a warning to what is to come. 'Cause there were like two high towers that collapsed during that day, and it actually symbolized the judgment against the West and the East Coast of America, California and New York City. And so it's like so, and on that day, I've explained that if that judgment gonna occur is also occur at the same time, the transformation. And so that's why 9/11 is very important. And even though it stuck with 24th, is actually move one day below because of the new moon. Like, even though the Jewish calendar, it's supposed to be on this day of the 24th, 25, but because the new moon, it came a day later than the day it was on the calendar, so that's why the actual Kislev 6 and 7 is also like a day after that. So a day, cause like it all depends on a new moon. So that's what it is, where it starts counting. And so again, it's kind of like all the connection relationship between the dates, and it goes back to the 19 and 20 of November. There's also Kislev 6 and 7. The God's clock works a lot of number 3. It goes by year, it goes by month of the Golden Rule 3. And that's like, so a lot of 3s go around, and the number 3, ironically, like, it also goes with the number of calendars to be used. So using a Jewish calendar is actually just one of them, but it's just part of the picture. Enoch, Elijah, and Jesus, which is the Jewish calendar, to be used, all of them simultaneously. So 3 calendars at once to be used, so that when it's Kislev 6 and 7 in the Jewish calendar is also Kislev 6 to 7 being equalized by the Enoch's calendar that's going by Tishrei 29. And Tishrei 29 is just a key marker in this calendar, and so I'm not gonna explain everything in this video, but I just uploaded the chart in which it could be downloaded on the site. And so that's what I believe the reason why in Genesis 4:24 that it mentioned about 7 times 11, which is 77. So not only November is like double 1, which could be seen as 77, but also having Tishrei, which is 7, the 7th month in the Jewish calendar, being in November, which is also 7/11. And so it's just really interesting to see that and just going around that on the same date of 25th and 26th is also the same as Tishrei 29, 30. And well, for instance, one of the key markers that are being linked to Tishrei 29, the use of God's clock is actually linking the markers in the past, in the future, and they're all linked to the present time. And so Tishrei 29 is actually being linked to, for instance, 5/22, which is the 22nd of May 1960. During that time of the year, there was the greatest earthquake in history, and so that's actually being linked to Tishrei 29, and also with Tisha B'Av, so that's F9 and F10. So that's the fifth month of the Jewish calendar being linked also with T329, and it's actually T329 and 30, of course, in the same Q6 and 7. So also because Enoch's calendar, Enoch is the father of time, and so it's very important to not only reference Q 11, which is also 9/11 on the 29th of November, which is being equal to the 29th May, and that was the date of the first summit to Mount Everest. And the reason why that date is a marker, because it's the highest mountain in the earth that symbolizes the exaltation of the bride, and so through the transformation. And so that in Genesis 7 verse 19, it talked about how the hills were covered with the rain of the flood, and so that definitely, I believe, linked to that judgment being linked to the 29th of May. So Q 15 being on the 28th is actually the Ides of March, and the Ides of March, well, that's like the Ides of March is it's a key marker. 9:15 is actually 3:15 at the same time. Again, it goes by three by three kind of way, backward and forward with regards to clock. And so because of the delay, as I mentioned before, the Rosh Hashanah of this year, that's supposed to be in October and in September, according to Exodus chapter 34 verse 22. And so because of that, it's actually equalized the month of November with October and December, so that it's just kind of like they're on the same page because of the delay. And the use of that is also there's also a use behind it. But before getting into that, I just want to say about why I was putting Eve over here. Okay, so she's found 2 and 5. I also want to explain about this as well. That's it actually goes back and forth. So you're going back into 29, being on 25, then 28, then that would go to choose fund 2. And choose fund 2 to 5 is actually according to the pattern. Well, it's actually the same date that was in 2013, and we're using the precursor of the sign Jonah that occurred in October the 16th, 19, and the 28th of November, and also the 13th of October 2015. So I'm going to show you about relationship network, but what I want to show you about, and she's found 2 and 5, is actually the dates of the 3 days of darkness being represented, being linked back to October the 16th, 19 of the same date. And right now it's 2017, but it can go back to 2013 by many ways. And because of the delay, 2013 belongs to group 1. So there's like 3 groups. Again, the 3 groups in the God clock. Group 1 is according to the clock, group 1 is the blue one, which is the well, you can say the family of 1, 4, 7, 10. Group 2 is 2, 5, 8, and 11. Group 3 is 3, 6, 9, and 12. And so that's actually we're in 2017 we're in group 2. 2013 is in group 1. So in order to link group 2 to group 1, because of the delay, it actually equalized October and November at the same time. And October, which is 10, is actually group 1, so it is also merging with group 2 at the same time. So that's how I see it. So that's why it is made possible. Also, because why I choose 5 is very important, because with the clock, this thing with the this pointer, this is actually a pointer of the God's clock, and this is also the pointer of God's one. 2 pointers over here in red. It's pointing to the 8th month. So I'm just been folding 66 because the George calendar in 2 New Years, and folding these song and T3 at the same time, and so it's actually 66 and it points to the 8th month. So Passover, this is Passover, pointing to Chisvan, pointing to the 8th month. So Passover actually pertains to the 3 days of darkness. The 3 days of darkness of the Passover by itself as well, in which is also linked the 2 veins in November, and so that's how it is November, which now, and the land of Israel, the 6 and the 7 o'clock. Regards to the 6, yeah. So the Passover, you can see that is actually in the section of 2017. 2017, which is 5 o'clock right now. We're in 5 o'clock and 25 minutes direction. 17 is actually 2017 within the section of the Passover. So it's just pointing to this year 2017 is a Passover year. It's a sabbatical year as well, because it being linked to the 6 and 7 of the land of Israel being between the 6 and the 7, which is a sabbatical code again. And so again, the number 6 and 7, there's a point being on the 4th Saturday and the 4th Sunday. The 4th Saturday is 25th. The 4th Sunday, which is the 26th, and so it makes up 666627777. So hopefully that's what it is. But well, again, that's a speculation, but it is pretty interesting to see that it actually echoes to the 4th commandment. The 4th commandment, it also behind the commandment. Behind the commandment is actually a hidden code of a 4-digit place with the combination of the number 6 and 7. So that's actually a code of transformation, transitioning to the corruptible state, and so if EVE, the reason why, yeah, so over here, Eve, we have Eve before in Genesis 3, where Eve, she was with Adam. And so there's actually more meaning behind her name Eve. And also there's meaning behind why Eve was only named in chapter 3, Genesis chapter 3, which is the fall, it's about the fall. So, well, I actually got like a little E and a big V. A little E, a little V, a little E, and a big E, big V, and a big E. And there's a meaning behind why there's a big one and a little one. So, well, first of all, to explain about the big E, which I suppose that big E was a judgment, because it's interesting that God goes by the number 3 a lot of times, and so judgments that go threefold. And the big E, that was because in Genesis 7 is that so if you notice closely to the account of the flood, it actually used 3 different kinds of way describing the flood in the 3 different kinds of way, but it's also the same thing actually, being the flood in 3 parts. So I do believe that actually refers to 3 parts of worldwide judgment. And ironically, I found out the big E that supposed to be the worldwide flood back in Genesis 7. So that was like a big E and a big V, that again another worldwide judgment at the time of the 6th seal, which it's gonna like in the worldwide scale, and then the big E again, which I suppose that would be the 7th seal, because that's will be the sun destruction worldwide and judgment at the time of the rapture of the bride. So that's like the big E, the big V, and the big E again. It's actually decoded as 522. E is actually 522 being equal to V at the same time, according to dual alphabetical system. And so 522 is the code of judgment. It's the code also of the greatest earthquake in history. So the little E, little V and a little E, which I supposed, well, by speculation, the little E supposed if that's what it is, being on 25th and 26th in 2 different time zones, and a little V being on 28 and 29 of November, and a little E in the 1st and 2nd December. So it's like three times the judgments in 3 places. 3 places including Israel, judgment against America's west and the east coast. And so on the first day, according to Exodus 24 verse 16, is actually the 6 and 7 day rule. And we on the 25th and the 26th, so on, if that's gonna be the first day, so that's gonna be the first day, then the first day will have his judgment, the 3rd and the 4th day, and 28 and 29, if that's what it is gonna be another judge on True Six Seal, and the first day is gonna be the earthquake. A judgment, also according to Matthew 28, just another little E at the end on the 1st and the 2nd of December, if that's what it is, and that makes up its Eve. There's actually a lot more to that, and I've written like booklets that can be downloaded on my website as well, which you can have a look if you are interested. So I just want to show about the relation network. I'm still trying to do, like, it's not perfect, but so far it just kind of like spider webs all over the place, and the line and the relationship networks everywhere connecting between magos, and so that's what it is, and they can be equalized by the method in God's clock. So okay, what I want to talk about right now is how October and December being linked to November because of the delay. Chisvan 11 was the date when Rachel died, and the reason why the death of Rachel is very important, as mentioned in Genesis 39, because in the book of Genesis, the sabbatical code of having purely for the 7 was mentioned only in Genesis 7, Genesis 29. And so that's a hidden 2-29 behind it, just confirming how important 2-29 is. But moreover, because Genesis 29 is a sabbatical chapter, and so that's why Chisvan 11 is also a sabbatical date, and that's actually the 8th month of the 8th month of the Jewish calendar. That I actually could also see that as 4 on the 1, which is 1111, because Chisvan is also the 11th month by God's clock. It skips 3 at a time, so the 8th month is also the 11th month, so that's actually 1111. It's actually the same as 7777, and that's been on the 25th and been linked to November. And the 25th, I was blaming for that, pointing to 25th of the God's clock in October is actually pointing exactly to the location of Chile, the greatest earthquake in history, the spot that hit on the 25th October on this map that's being superimposed with the God's clock. In the face of the earth is the God's clock where it's centered, land of Israel, in the land is Israel, and so pointing to 25th is actually landed onto this exact position of code 522, code Eve. So December, it's also like being linked, same as Christmas, and 25 of December, and it's also going the day forward, which you can see that Tibet 8 and 9 is Tibet 8 and 9 delayed one day off. So Tibet 13 and Tibet 14 on the 27 and the 28 of December is also on the 28 and 29, being applied to 28 and 29 November 2017. Tibet 13 to Tibet 14, that's actually the 10th month on the 13th or 10th month, which is in 2015. That was a date that in accordance to Daniel 9, and that landed on to the 13th October 2015, which is actually linked to this date because it's also 10th month being equalized even in the year 2017, because December is in group 3. 2015 is also in group 3, so both are on the same group, and so they can have a relationship. And so I have a lot more that went in unexplained, but definitely right now is a hard time. And also January 2018, which will be after 40 days from the 11th January to the 20th of January 2018. That's gonna be a big possibility. It's just a possibility, like, and interesting in a way that Trump, like Donald Trump, he was in office on the 20th of January 2017, and the word Trump was it's actually related to the rapture in the scripture with like the Trump of God. So that's, I believe, it's a marker. And so in January, if you combine November and January, is double one and a single one, 11 and a 1, is actually again resembles Genesis chapter 4 verse 24, when it says about how Lamech, he preached about the sevenfold of Cain, and where he would have 77-fold, in which 1 is a 7. So that's why I'm seeing the 7 and double 7 is the possibility of 1 and a double 11 being resembled by November and January. So that's 777. And with the crucifixion itself, there are like 3 crosses, and well, it actually resembles the letter T, and the letter T is equal to the number 7. So the code of the crucifixion is also 777 at the same time. Anyways, I'm gonna stop over here, and thank you for listening.